thanks for joining us, Congressman Jim Banks. You are the chairman of the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Military Personnel and Naval Reservists as well. And you hosted a hearing this week on diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Department of the Defense. And so for the hearing, you invited the top officials for the DoD, Army, Navy, Air Force on DEI to testify about what they were doing at the DoD on DEI. So first, can you explain what DEI is and how that's affecting the DoD?
Well, diversity, equity, inclusion programs have become prevalent across all of the branches of the military. And the hearing this week was, frankly, it was really disappointing because I wanted the Pentagon officials to justify the estimated over 6 million man hours per General Milley have been spent on both the extremism stand down, General Austin's first act as Secretary of the Defense, plus all of the DEI training amongst all of our troops. So I wanted them to justify it. What's the statistical or empirical evidence that they have at the Pentagon that shows that any of this is worthwhile? 6 million man hours that could be spent on training our troops to defeat China or positioning us to strengthen our military in other ways, but are instead being focused on DEI political training pushed on our troops. And there wasn't a single example or single effort at all to defend it. So that was the big takeaway of the hearing. It was disappointing in that regard. Undersecretary Cisneros, who oversees all of the DEI programs at the Pentagon, had nothing substantive at all to say in the hearing, especially justifying any of these efforts. And I think you can expect when we get to the NDAA this year, Republicans who are unified against this politicized left-wing woke DEI training, we're going to do everything that we can to strip it and defund it from the military.
I thought it was very interesting that the officials kept saying DEI is good for recruitment, but when Representative Jack Bergman, asked why recruitment was suffering, it didn't seem like they had an answer to that.
Yeah, the 50th anniversary of an all-volunteer force and the biggest recruitment crisis in our military's history during that period of time. I think a lot of that has to do with the military becoming, again, so politicized, the left-wing agenda being pushed on our troops by the Democrat Party, by the Biden administration. So these officials, they don't deny that. I mean, the Army is hidden behind a report that they won't even release the methodology behind that report that says that wokeness isn't affecting recruitment in the military, but they can't prove it. And that's the startling part of it. What are they doing to fix the recruitment crisis? Instead, they're spending enormous resources, over 6 million man hours of training. They're focusing on DEI instead of on the future of our armed forces and making protecting America, which is the explicit purpose of our military to begin with.
Is there a way to get that study that DoD officials are citing that shows that wokeness is not affecting recruiting?
Yeah, we're going to, in the NDAA, if they don't release it before, we're going to force them to release it. So I think there's a reason they don't want to release it, because they know it's a faulty report, probably conducted by the DEI officials themselves. So they don't want to release it because they know the methodology is faulty. But at the end of the day, as I said, the hearing this week provided no evidence that DEI programs are effective at all. In fact, it became very clear in the hearing, has always been clear that the military is richly diverse. I mean, I served in uniform. I served in Afghanistan, and my colleagues, the fellow service members who I served with, were a very diverse unit and a very diverse Navy Reserve experience that I had. So more diverse than the general population of the United States of America. So what is the point of all of this training? I asked Secretary Cisneros this week if he's ever had a single conversation with his department or anyone related to DEI about how to protect political ideologies from creeping into DEI training. And he said no. That's because that they know that that's exactly the purpose of DEI training. It's highly political. It's woke. It's left wing, anti-American. They're pushing it on our troops. It's got to stop. They can't defend it. And the hearing this week proved it.
Can you explain why DEI hurts our military, hurts military readiness, especially as we see adversaries, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and so many other threats around the world? Are those militaries focusing on DEI?
Yeah, not. I mean, the Chinese military is not diverse at all. They're focused on winning wars and defeating America. That's their priority and their focus. And the United States military is very diverse, but yet the DEI training is divisive. It divides our troops along racial lines, along gender lines. So it's not just ineffective; it's dangerous to the force structure, the strength of our military. That's why it's got to stop. The hearing this week, we got into those questions. The DEI officials that testified before our committee, they were trying to defend that this. They kept saying there's only one man hour for our troops, and compared to all of the weapons training and everything else that our troops do, it's not consequential. They were trying to downplay it, but the fact of the matter is, this is a giant priority for this administration. I mean, it's in all of their executive orders. Go back to the extremism stand down again that Secretary Austin put in place at the outset. All of that was going on, but less of a priority to focus on China, less of a priority to focus on military accidents and mishaps and training accidents that have cost lives of our troops. So it's really a question of priority, but there's also a dangerous component, a divisive nature of this DEI training that does not belong in our military. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, man or woman. It's all about what can you do to serve our country and protect America, to protect our Constitution, to wear the uniform, to go out and fight wars and make sure that America is never in a fair fight, that we always have the competitive edge. Instead, they're taking away the competitive edge and doing away with the meritocracy of our military. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, and something else that came up during the hearing, Kalisa Wing, who was the former DEI chief for DoD schools, so basically the entire Department of Defense school system. What did DoD say about her? She was caught tweeting disparaging remarks about white people. So what did the DoD officials say during the hearing?
Yeah, so the Pentagon hires a very racist person to lead the DEI program at the Pentagon, and when she got caught with a very racist, a very shameful tweet, when it was brought to the attention, Elise Stefanik raised this issue. When she called out Secretary Cisneros and asked why this woman was being placed in this DEI lead position at the Pentagon, having tweeted very racist things out in public, in a very public way, why they weren't doing anything about it. Eventually they just reshuffled her position, a six-figure salary, to put her somewhere else when she should never have been hired by the Pentagon to begin with. So it's dangerous, but it's an important example of how these officials have operated within the Pentagon. It's happening all across the federal government, though, in the Biden administration, where they're hiring people with these very dangerous anti-American, racist and woke ideologies that they're pushing out on our society, on our culture. But in this case, in a very dangerous way in our military, out in schools and military training. This woman was even caught making shameless plugs for the racist books that she had written at military conferences. I think, Kristina, you have written extensively about this subject. So very dangerous. It's got to come to an end. We got to stop it. This administration is protecting it, and it's doing, I believe, a significant harm to our military, to our national strength, our national security. and we got to put a stop to it. Republicans in the House, especially on the Armed Services Committee, are unified in dealing with this. When we get to the NDAA and uprooting wokeism in the military, we're going to fight back against it and do everything we can to legislate to defund DEI programs at the Pentagon. And the hearing this week gave us a lot of fodder, or a lot of evidence, a lot of feedback that's going to help guide our work.
Great. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
We're just getting started.